Alright, and welcome back to our third installment of these Java Basics tutorials. This time we are going to be learning about methods. So we're going to go ahead and we'll name this Method Learning. Oh my. Yeah. So we're going to go public class method learning. Public static void main. String args. Now before we start, let's go over what a method is. So, let's say that I need to do a very redundant task. For instance, let's say I needed to calculate like miles per gallon. So if I start with 10 gallons and I go 500 miles, and I want to calculate that, but I don't want to do it every time in code, I would have, say, a method called mpg miles per gallon, and it would take the parameters mile, tank, miles, and then, so let's say start tank, so like how many gallons you have in your tank when you begin, then end tank, how many gallons you have when you end, then the miles you traveled. So I can then, instead of having to do this calculation all those times in this code, I can have this do it for me. So if I want it to return a variable, I have to put the variable I want it to return. So I want it to return an int. And I also need to put int in here. So now, let's make this a little bit better. So you can put these methods in two places. You can either put them in that, or you can put them in a separate file/class. Just so you guys can see what's going on, I'll put it in the same class. So I'll name this class calculate. And we don't put a public static void main because this isn't the thing we're loading. This is like a reliability class, or something we rely on to do our calculations. This is the class that does all like the compiling and making. So let's say I want to calculate, well actually first I need to make the constructor. So let's say I have a bunch of ints in here, like int start, int in, int, let's say start t, start tank, end tank, start miles, and end miles. And then I need to create a constructor, so I can go calculate, and then I'm gonna put my parameters. So let's say I'm gonna say I have no parameters for right now. And if I have no parameters, I don't even need this. So these all just default to 1 right now, but I can have like calculate and then start, and then I could set start t equals start, but you always have to call the constructor first. Since I don't really need to instantiate anything, I'm just not going to do it. Now we're going to get on to our methods. So here, we're going to have public miles per gallon. But let's say they don't really care about this start. Let's say they just start at 0, so they don't feel like putting that in. So they're going to put in their, or let's say they run their tank dry, so they have 10 gallons. So your start gallons and your end miles. But then they could also have their start gallons, their end gallon, their end mile, and their start mile. Or they could have their end tank, start mile, end mile, or their start tank, end tank, end mile. So how are we going to do all that? Are we going to have different name constructors? No. So we can go public mg, public MPG is miles per gallon. So we'll go and start and and I'll do this so I can show you some more. Start and start T and T. Alright, now, but I have two variables here, and these are local variables, so these will be called first. So in order to call these variables and make them these, I need to go, because, so let's say I call this. In order to call this, I have to go calculate. An app is the name of our calculate right here. So calculate app equals new calculate. And we're going to create it with no parameters. Now let's say I need to pass some values off to here. I'm going to go app.mpg. And now I want to pass the start miles. So let's say I start, my odometer's at 100 miles. When I end, it's at 1,000 miles. Or it's at, we'll say, 200 miles. And my tank started, it was at 5 gallons, and when it ended, it was at 1. So now it's going to pass all these values over here, and then this is going to create all these values and these parameters. So there's going to be a start M instantiated to 100, end M instantiated to 200, start tank to 5, and end tank to 1. But these variables are separate from these. Now I can name these anything, but since they're named the same as these, I need to make sure I set these to these. In order to do that, I have to go this dot start t, and this one is this one. So this dot start t is the global variable. That's what these are called. And these are the local variables. And to set the global start tank to the local start tank, we just have to do this dot start t equals start t. And actually, we don't even need to do that. But that's just so you know how to do that. We'll get into that later, actually. Actually, how about we get into that now? I'll show you how to do this a different way in a little bit. So, start miles. Start in equals start in. This dot end tank equals end tank. This dot end miles equals end. And then we'll have an integer call. Int mpg. So now we have all of these set up. All of these are instantiated to that. And we can create many of these. So let's say I don't care about the start miles. I can just do that. Then I can do that. Or if I don't care about the start tank, I'll just get rid of the start tank. And you can do this for as many different parameter types as you're going to have. Actually, this does not work. Because how is it going to know the difference between this one and this one? It's just 3 integers. So we could have, let's say, just a string at the very end that would tell it which one to go to. So let's say if it has a string at the end, which we're not going to do anything with, it'll call this one. 1 second. Dang it. Alright. So we're going to copy this. So I don't care about the start miles. Actually, I don't care about the start tank. Now, so in order to call this one, I'm going to have to put 3 integers, then just any character at the end. In order to call this one, I just put any 3. So I can basically create as many of these as I want, as long as none of them match in their parameters. So now, that's how you do it with these global variables. And then to calculate the MPG, I could be like, we'll just do it for this one for right now. And alright, let's see. And here, we'll rename these set MPG. And then we'll have them call calc. Sorry. Actually, I have no idea. I think I can just call them like that. Well, I do have an idea. This is just to demonstrate. Normally you wouldn't do like this. Now just to make sure I can do it like that. Uh-oh, whoops. Now if it's not returning anything, which in this instance it's not, you're going to put public void. But if you want it to return something, which we'll talk about in a minute, you're going to put your return type there. Alright, let's go through the process of debugging. Misspell. Alright, let's go through and fix all our misspells. And all those spelled right. Alright, so in order to do this, we are actually going to need to go calculate. And we're going to create a constructor. Oh wait, that's probably why that didn't work. Never mind, we don't need to do that. Or maybe we do. Public void calc. Let's see what happens when I call it. Yes, it does work. So we need to set that. And let's spell this right this time. Alright. Let's keep on trucking. So now to calculate it. And since all these are instantiated to 0, it doesn't really matter which one of these we get, because we're going to do the calculation the same either way. So we're going to do ntink. So we're going to do tank int tank equals start, end tank. So let's say I'm at 200, so I'm at 200 gallons at the very end, minus my start tank, which we'll just say is 100. So this will tell the tank that I traveled 100 miles. Now we're going to go int, or I used 100 gallons. Man, that's a good car if it can. Alright, so now we're going to go int miles. So let's say I use 10 gallons. I started with 10, I ended with 10 gallons and I started with that. Oh. Yeah, so that's an unrealistic one. Let's get rid of that. We need to know the start and the end tank. So we're gonna, but on this one, you're gonna want the start tank minus the end tank. Because if I start with 20 and I go to 10, I need to know how many I use. So NT. But on this one, we're gonna want end miles minus start miles. So we know how many miles can travel. Now we're going to do MPG. We're not going to put int in front of this because it is a global variable and it's already defined. So MPG equals tank divided by miles, or miles divided by tank. So if I travel 200 miles on 5 gallons, that's going to be 40 miles a gallon. And now let's call out print results. It's not doing anything right now, but that's because we haven't defined it. So print results, and we want this to print out the string of this. So let's say system.out.println you used. Now we're gonna add our and let's instantiate these up here. And tank and miles. Now you could put this calculation inside of these, but it's a lot less code if you just do it this way. Alright, so you used, now we're going to add the tank value. Gallons. I don't know what that's doing, but that's okay. Oh, gotta add my semicolon out there. And now we're gonna say println you traveled blank miles, period. System.out println your car travels, and now we're gonna add our miles per gallon. Blank, or miles per gallon, miles per gallon. Alright, let's compile it and see if it works. Oh, whoops, I forgot to add my public void. We'll go over return statements in the next one. Then we'll get into some more advanced stuff. Unexpected. What is it? Oh, whoops. Needs to add another addition sign. Used 4 gallons, traveled 100 miles, car traveled. So now let's check those calculations. So my start gallons, or my start miles was 100, my end miles was 200. So we traveled 100 miles. My start tank was 5, my end tank was 1, so we used 4 gallons. So those match up. So I traveled 100 miles on 4 gallons. So 100 divided by 4 equals 25 miles per gallon. It worked. Now you could add some more challenging stuff in here, like system. Let's call scanner. Well, you'll get the idea. You could call some stuff like, and I'm not really doing the entire thing, but like enter your start, enter your end. Then you could add enter your end, then enter your start miles, enter your end miles, and then you could plug those variables into here and calculate it and then print it out. So next time we'll get into return statements on these and how to really optimize it. But that's pretty much it for this video. Keep watching. I may be starting a JavaFX series will show swing on this series, but I'm gonna make a whole Java FX, which is like a graphical user interface, so like graphics like this. Probably not anything this advanced, but hey, we'll get there. So see you next time.